Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast. You know, some women are afraid of being too wet. Some are really concerned about not being wet enough, especially those in their power years, as I like to say. And so many women are afraid of making noises. And we're going to be talking about all of that today. I'm Dr. Willow Brown here with the one and only Leah Piper. And if you like this episode, you probably like episode number 204 as well, where we talk about why orgasm during penetration can be so challenging. And, you know, if you like our podcast, we sure would appreciate it if you hit the like button and subscribed, because that helps other viewers really find us and it helps more of our episodes find you.
Yeah, so look, if you get a lot of goodies out of this one, share it with a pal, share it with a friend. And, if you've listened to the show before, we're at that moment where it's time for you to really get present, to tune in, to get super turned on, and to fall in love with being enough.
Welcome to the Sex Reimagined podcast, where sex is shame-free and pleasure-forward. Let's get into the show.
There's so many. I feel like noise making is probably the biggest part of this conversation, because noise making can elicit wetness because it gets you more into the experience.
Well, I think this is a really interesting thing that a lot of women struggle with, and that is just not being too much and not being enough is kind of what it comes down to.
Yeah,
It's
in
like,
all areas, not just in
Yeah.
sexuality.
Yeah, but like being too wet can feel really embarrassing, feeling like too juicy. I remember there was a student who was telling me about these past sexual experiences of her, and like she went down on this guy, but then the guy didn't want to go down on her because he made this comment of like, it's just too wet, and how like shut down that made her feel.
Yeah, comments like that can really like leave a scar on your brain for years and years to come. So it's really important to be cautious about comments like that, smells and levels of wetness and tastes and all of that.
Yeah. Even a similar comment, which is like, why aren't you wet?
Right.
You know, as if like there's something wrong with you if
Wrong.
you're not like ready to be penetrated, right then and there. It's like, but you seem turned on. And so I just think
Right.
like what people really need to know is like, there's nothing wrong. If
Yeah.
you're not wet enough, there's nothing wrong. It doesn't mean that you're not aroused. It doesn't mean that you're not turned on. Yes, there's all sorts of signals scientifically that show arousal in the body, right? There's sometimes a quickening of breath. There's eyes that get dilated. There's a flushing that happens. There's blood
The
flow
lips.
that goes to the genitals.
Yeah. Both
Yeah.
sets of lips can become
The
more
nipples get
plump and
peaked.
open. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
So
Yeah,
you're
and
looking
plus
for those signs, but that doesn't
Right.
mean that all of those signs need to be firing for someone to be excited by what's
Yes,
happening.
I mean, sometimes, a woman's pussy can get wet just because of where she's at in her cycle. So
Right.
there's cervical fluid that is doing its dance all month long as well. And there are times when you're just drier and times
Yeah.
when you have more fluid coming through. So it's even not always related to arousal.
You know what's interesting too is once you start to experience the female ejaculation, it's a very strange thing because it will feel super wet, but it's not viscous.
Right.
So
More like
it will
water.
strip away any viscous fluids, which kind of leaves you dry after you've had a splash. So what a lot of women discover if they are ejaculators is that they need to use more lube.
Interesting.
You can't
Yeah.
just rely on the female ejaculation to be enough for comfortable penetration. You often have to add a more viscous fluid, and then you might keep ejaculating. Sometimes you don't need to, but I learned in my early 20s when I started to really have that be a predictable phenomenon in my life. Like I always had lube, and I never understood. I never got like, why are people so hung up on whether or not they're wet or not? Like that's what lube's for. It's like it doesn't
Yeah,
mean
just
anything.
grab a lube.
or just have it always. And then you're always comfortable. And it's not a stigma, but a lot of people feel it as a stigma, and that's crushing.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's so easy to just have some coconut oil on hand and you have a much better experience all around. Times during the cycle when women tend to have a lot more lubrication is around ovulation. If they're still in their fertility years and they're still having a menstrual cycle, then during that fertility time, their pussy tends to be more wet anyway, because that is the time that, penetrative ejaculatory sex would co-create new life. And so it's nature's way. And then other times when things might be more dry is right after you bleed, and could potentially also be right before you bleed. And it's interesting too how desire and arousal levels shift during those times as well. Like we need more foreplay, more time, more ramping things up slowly over a longer period of time right before we bleed. And then also after we bleed. So around the menstrual cycle is a good time to pay more attention to lubrication, and also a good time to pay more attention to using your voice in order to turn yourself on more. I think that when we take the shame off of making sounds, that it really frees us up to open the cuello is the word for neck in Spanish, and it opens the cuello de cervico in the yoni, so the neck of the cervix, the os, and it really makes a big difference.
Yeah, I think so it's like this is where performance starts to really come into the conversation, because if we're wet or we're dry, we're making those squishy sounds. I love
those sounds.
I think those sounds are sexy as hell. I think like this is where one needs to have a perspective shift. Allow the sounds of lovemaking to enhance your experience. And that means the sounds that skin slapping up against each other makes. It's making those squishy sounds, and it's allowing the expressive part of your voice be invited to the table. It's getting into the habit and being actually intentional about the sounds that you're making, because it's a form of communication with your partner. It helps your partner understand where you're at in your arousal cycle, and it brings up more arousal to your body when you can call in the sensations that you desire to feel by making the sounds of what it might feel like if you were experiencing it. And there's an important distinction from faking, because
100%.
there's this edge that you're playing with. Tantrikas know that if I make the sound of pleasure, pleasure comes to me. If I wait for something to be worthy of a sound to make the sound, I might be waiting all night long. So if you can get in the habit of dropping so deep into your body that you allow the movement of what you're experiencing to pass through the lips, which I was just doing this meditation with a client today. We were sitting back to back, and we were dropping into the breath. And I was having him like really engage. He knew he was feeling stagnation in his belly and in his heart. And so we just like dropped in. I said, I want you to study the movement of your breath going up and down the spine. And you're going to feel my back. And as you begin to breathe into the lower lungs, your whole skeleton's going to move. And eventually it's like you're going to feel a wave that starts to just move up and down your body. And it's just going to feel natural to just begin to sigh. As you're letting it go, then you start to feel like your breath becomes like the sound of the ocean, and your body, you just allow your body to move. It's subtle, but it's connected to a certain essence. So it has authentic rhythm. And if you give yourself permission to be connected to your breath while you're breathing, there's a natural sound that occurs, but you have to kind of invite it. You have to like let your shoulders drop. You got to invite your belly to get soft. You got to really go, what does it feel like when I really pay attention to my breath? My whole spine actually moves with the breath, because your lungs are huge. Your lungs, got to feel the lower lungs, get the upper lungs filled up. It makes your shoulders move up, and then you drop back down on the exhale. It's these subtle moments where I think you can really train your body to get comfortable with some audible sound. Look, screaming's great. Rock down the house, rock down the neighborhood with your sounds of love. But it's okay if you're not there yet. Just try subtle sighs, a little groan here and there. It doesn't have to sound crazy. You can still keep it within the privacy of your room. But like you said, the throat has a deep, deep connection to the yoni. So when you make the sound of sensation, doesn't even have to be orgasmic yet. I'm not suggesting you wait until you have an orgasm. That's actually missing the boat. You got to get into the rhythm of the sound a lot sooner.
Absolutely. I mean, I have a someone in my realm right now who's like, "Can we record your sounds?" And I want to make song out of it. Like, can't get enough of the sounds. Like,
That's
it's fixated
badass.
on all the little sounds that come out since the voice is so freed up, which is interesting because I didn't used to be so freed up in my voice. And you know, it took a long time. I think one of the most shut down places that is like inside of 90% of women is right here, right at this place where the heart and the throat come together. We call it the avenue of expression in the cranial sacral world. And so often I will go to this area and hold my hand there and really start to unravel and unwind whatever's stuck there, and getting all people to sound, but in particular women. It's just like, it's such an incredible freeing up of so much stuck energy in the body. Now, I come from the Taoist practice. I was doing Taoist sexology for probably 20 years before I really stepped onto the tantric path. And in Taoist sexology, sounding is not big. It's actually, you want to keep the sound in so that you're keeping all of the energy in, and you're moving
Interesting.
energy to certain places in the body, like you would orgasmic energy, moving it to the adrenals or the pineal gland or somewhere like that. But you're moving energy with the breath always. And what I found once I started, so I was resistant when I got to Tantra camp. I was like, I don't know about all this sounding you guys are doing. It's against what I've known for so long.
Wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and then I started freeing up the voice, and I started doing the sounding and dropping so deep. I think what's so valuable about what Tantra brings is like dropping so deep into the sensation, whether I'm feeling a sensation of pain or stuckness or total rapture. I'm sounding from that place. I'm not sounding from a contrived place or a place of, it's supposed to sound like they do in pornography, or it's supposed to sound like they do in the movies. You know, it's like when we sound from those places, yeah, that's not it. That's gonna probably perpetuate the stagnation and the stuck energy in your body. Maybe not, but definitely if you can go into it and really experience the sensation, make the sound of that, that is what will free up and open up more pleasure, more arousal to your experience in the moment.
So, what have you decided, having lived a more Taoist tradition and also a tantric tradition, which do you prefer?
I think they both, now they're so sort of integrated within me. So I'll make more sounds in the beginning to kind of move things and open things up and move my own arousal scale to higher levels, because we are the only ones who are responsible for our arousal. Keeping that in mind, you know, we always put that what am I trying to say?
Well, when you're responsible for your own arousal, then you get to have a great time no matter what. When you're not making it the job of somebody else, then you have a lot more control over your experience and a lot more agency.
Yes, and we put that responsibility on others, and it's really no one's responsibility, but it gives you so much more a sense of empowerment when you have the opportunity to move your arousal scale higher and higher for yourself. So then as I get closer to, if I'm doing rolling orgasms where I'm bringing it up and I'm having multiple like that, then I will usually keep the sound a little bit more contained as I'm running the energy into the adrenals or the pineal gland or back of the heart or something like that. Because it just helps me kind of focus more inwardly. But then full expression of the voice when the final frontier arrives. I think there's so much value in really opening up the throat when you're having that full expression. So much of us hold our breath and clench our ass when we're having an orgasm. Pretty much everyone does it. I mean, Leah and I are constantly coaching people to relax your ass and breathe, open up your throat and breathe. So just starting with that will give you the pathway for more sound to come out.
Yeah, I think that's so true. When I'm playing with peaking and I'm rolling, like I'm not getting to a 10 yet where I'm going to go over the cliff of orgasm, but I'm hanging out in high realms of like 8 and 9 on the arousal scale. My breath tends to be a similar tone because I'm trying to surf the wave. And if I over punch on the sound, then I'm going to go over the waterfall too soon. But when I'm in a roll and I'm peaking and I'm oscillating at those high notes, it's a subtle shift of noise. But it's kind of like, oh my God, oh my God, oh my God, like this is happening. This is going forever, because it does feel like a climax, but it's not the highest peak. And I think this is a really interesting concept because the sound has pitch and frequency. And so there's something very resonant about pitch and frequency and how it shifts the energy of your experience. And so sound isn't just, ooh, I'm making sounds like a porn star. That's where it starts to feel performative, where I'm trying to make sounds that I think you'll think are sexy.
Right.
Instead of like making sounds because you're moved.
Right. That's
There's
a lot of pressure.
movement happening in your system, and it's about coming alive. And it's also about your own internal mastery of using your body like a musical instrument. And so if we take this metaphor of sound having pitch and frequency, and especially when you've got music on in the background, it can help you drop into a rhythm and a beat that your body then can attune to. And so this rhythm and this beat kind of matches the energy and the flow with which you're co-creating, or maybe you're by yourself. Like follow that, let yourself let go into the non-self-conscious part of the experience. Because once you're in higher levels of arousal, it's like, what happened to all that self-consciousness anyways? Like I've now stopped worrying about my belly rolls. You know what? I'm no longer worrying that my thighs and my ass have multiple rolls when they're bent, when my leg is bent. It's like, it's all just juicy. But I think where we get caught up is the beginning, and it derails our pleasure. It derails our experience of freedom and aliveness with a partner when we're worried, oh my God, I'm not getting wet fast enough. Oh my God, I'm too wet. I'm sloppy. Oh my gosh, I don't want the children to hear, or I don't want the neighbor to hear, or I don't want my partner to hear. Like, what if they don't like my sounds? And so we just swallow it all down, and it stays compressed like cement. Oh, it's not good for your health, man.
It's a lot of inhibition in a realm where we are already super inhibited and super oppressed by the past eons of just oppression of the feminine. I mean, you can see it everywhere. But
go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I was just going to say, but we have the opportunity now, and we have the information now. We're living in a new time. We've never had so much information about feminine arousal and feminine anatomy that we do right now. So we are so blessed to be in this time where not only is it you can learn about it and it's available, but it's actually celebrated. And I think a lot of partners of yoni lovers out there really are encouraging of authentic sounds coming out. Yeah. One other thing I would really, we've said it before, but we'll say it again here since we're talking about sounding is often done from the top of the inhale all the way down to the very bottom of the exhale, which means not this. That's more of a breath. Breath is great too, but if you want to move energy with sound, you got to do it from the top to the bottom. All the way down to the very bottom of that breath. There's more. If you have a good long exhale, you can go all the way to the bottom. And that is where you will start to get out of your head. That's another thing, is we're so stuck in our heads in sexuality. Do I look okay? Do I smell okay? Do I taste okay? Am I too wet? Am I not wet enough? La, 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 a million questions. And we're not actually feeling what we're feeling. But when we start to make those sounds and we bring our awareness to our ears and that sense of sound, that vibration, that sensation moving through the throat, the feeling that we're connected to when we're making that sound, now we're in our soma. Now we're in the body and we're having a physical experience rather than a mental experience.
What would you say, because there's people out there who I'm sure like they don't want to shame their partner, but they do get a little bit of the like ickies,
Around.
yeah, like, oh, maybe they don't really like all the wetness. Maybe it does sort of have an aversion because it's not like you can totally control your disgust sensors in your brain. Like those happen and we don't, like you don't always have control over it. I know that there's a mindset shift that you can create for yourself to help counter the disgust sensor in the brain. But if you really find it icky, what's your advice to the person who's like, look, I don't want to shame my partner, but I can't help that smell or that sound or that stickiness is a turnoff to me?
Well, that is a great question for somebody who has done tons of birth work and tons of acupuncture work and like been all up in people's bodies and bodily function for a very long time. Because it doesn't always smell good. It doesn't always taste good. It doesn't always like turn you on sexually. Things going on. And it definitely relates to how well we take care of our bodies. There's going to be different smells and tastes and textures if somebody's eating McDonald's than there is if they're on a healthy diet, and so
Yeah.
That's a factor. But if somebody's like overly wet and it's turning you off, I think what you have to do is open up your mind to the experience that this wetness is it's an offering, like it's a libation. It's a testament to the attraction between the two of you. You could start to just reframe it. I mean, everything in life is perspective anyway. So there are plenty of times that I've worked with women in labor. I've worked with men in Tantra, and it just, I don't love the smell. It's not a super turn on for me. I don't love all the fluids that are coming out, but it's like, it's that person's opportunity to be in full expression. Then you get the honor of holding the space for them to be in that full expression. So if you start to think about it more as like, what am I getting out of this or not getting out of this? And just hold it more of like, what am I offering this person right now? What am I offering this body? What gift am I giving them to really open up possibility of experience?
I think there's such a huge gift that we can give people when we convey in any way that makes sense. That's an authentic way of conveying, like, I receive you just as you are, and your fluids and your smells are you, and I love you. And so like when a woman doesn't like quickly go ick and wipe off his semen super fast, it's like when you actually shift your mind. And I'll never forget when I got this shift, when I started to understand that men have 200 to 300 million sperm per load, and the life force energy that exists with each one of those sperm, that it could create life itself. It really started to blow my mind when I really sat with the magnitude of that men are born with enough sperm in their body to create, to populate the planet, one man as we know it. I mean, that's humbling. I think that that's very powerful. That was a real perspective shift. When I grokked that, I could never see sperm as jizz ever again, or ejaculation as jizz again. It was something much more potent, much more powerful. It became an elixir, and it's highly dense in nutrients and protein, and there's vitamins connected to that. And so
Super good for your skin.
great for the skin. So to take that and rub that into his chakras, or rub it into my chakras, and to be very visible, it's a very visual thing to take someone's fluids and to receive them as like a sacrament, to treat it with that kind of reverence, I think changes it for all time. And then that person is like, wow, they're receiving me on a whole nother level. And I was at an Alison Armstrong event, and when she was doing live events, she would always have a panel of men that would come at the end of the event, that were invited to speak. And they were always of different ages. There was usually 4 or 5 guys, and they would answer the same question. And this one happened to be talking about swallowing when someone's giving them a blowjob, and actually drinking the ejaculate instead of spitting it out or letting it erupt outside. He says, I've never felt more received, more loved, more connected than when a woman actually drinks my ejaculation. I feel so received. Like there's nothing gross about me, because she just took like the inner part of me into her. And I was really touched by that. I would have never been able to dream up that it could have that kind of emotional significance for him. So that was also a really cool perspective shift. So I think when you can honor someone's fluids, and really with reverence, with your actions more than your words, but your words are powerful too, really go like, I receive you, I see you, there's nothing gross about you, man, it can change someone's life. It can be a major inflection point on how they feel about their own body and that essence.
Huge. I mean, it completely can change somebody's entire synaptic reaction to how they walk through the world, their confidence, like what they know themselves capable of. I mean, if we take it back down to the chakra level, we're working with first and second chakra shit here. We're working with the fluids and the body of the lower chakras, which are the physical chakras. And so many of us are not satisfied with our bodies. We don't like this about it. We don't like that about it. We do everything we can to make it better. We're in a lot of discord with our bodies a lot of the time, many.
Yeah, it's really painful.
So it's really beautiful to give someone the gift of like, you're beautiful and you're amazing, and look at how phenomenal you are as you are right here and now. Like, you don't have to change anything to be in this state of power that is your God-given right to be in.
Now, how do we feel about sex on the period? When you're in your fertile years and you are bleeding, people have a lot of preferences. Some people are very free with it. Some people are very shy with it. Some people, it's a no-go.
Yeah, it's true. Here's what Chinese medicine would say about it. Don't do it on those first couple of heavy days. Don't put a tampon in. Don't put a cup in. Those are the days when things are meant to flow out, not in. And the menstrual blood also really heals the vaginal lining. So I can't tell you how many times girlfriends or clients have been like, I've been dealing with this, what is it called? This infection.
Vaginismus, or...
I've been dealing with this yeast infection or this itchiness or this whatever's going on for like 2 months. And I'm like, have you just let yourself bleed out and not put a tampon or anything in for like a whole entire period? And
yeah, like, right.
I haven't. I'm like, well, do that first, because you'll be amazed.
It'll correct the pH.
At how healing that is. So that's what Taoism would say about sex on the period, those first couple of days. I personally, I think it's up to the individual and the relationship that you're in, and like how intimate you are. And if you want to open that up, and then just grab a towel. It's not a big deal. You just do it back.
Right. I can understand why people don't like the stickiness of it or are turned off by the color of it, when they pull out and they see this ring of dried blood around their base of their cock, or she can see it. Like there can be a gulp, a flinch back of like, ooh, I wish neither one of us had to see that. I've had that experience where it's like, is this okay? Even though I know it's okay, there's another brain signal that makes me doubt the okayness. So you just don't take that seriously. Sometimes it comes with it. Another experience of perspective shift. And you guys, I'm sorry, I lost my voice, so I sound a little different today. It's coming back though. Is what we would call them like blood ceremonies in Tantra, where we would do sacred spot on ourselves if we were bleeding or if we had a partner that was open to it. And so they are digitally entering you and massaging your vaginal walls, massaging your G-spot. And there's something that just brings so much relief to PMS symptoms and cramping to have someone just massage the interior walls of your vagina. It can feel so like healing. It feels like pampering. And again, someone is like witnessing you and all this like bloatedness in these places that you don't really want to be visible, but they're there to be like, they're witnessing you in it. And if you can let yourself be free, it's so cool. And then I had this one friend who would take the blood and she would write messages on her body with the blood. Like, I love you, or power, or like symbols, like different yantras, or hearts, or she would even write words of release, like shame, like fear, and like she would draw it on her body. She would kind of sometimes do war paint, which she would take the blood and she would create like war paint on her face. And if she was with a partner, they'd put war paint on him or her. And I got so off on that idea. It then became an actual ritual. And so oftentimes if I'm working with a woman and she's still in her fertility years and she's like, oh, I'm a little nervous because it's like the end of my period. I'm like, no, like come back when your period's full on and let's go through a real ritual of transformation where we use the potency of this blood. And in ancient traditions, they saw a woman's moon cycle much differently. Yeah. They saw it as something that was to be revered so highly because it was the only blood sacrifice that did not take life. And so they would, if they were bleeding, they would dance a lot because of tribal communities. Oftentimes women's cycles get timed up together. So a lot of the sisters would go out into the crops and fertilize the crops with their menstrual blood. They would soak the fabric that they would use to catch the blood. They would soak it in water, and then they would do ceremonies with the blood water. When the men would be excused from war or battle to come back to their home, and when their woman was on her period, so that she could paint him with her menstrual blood to make him invincible in battle. I mean, I just think that's so much more potent and powerful. And like, there's so much acceptance and magic at the idea of cultivating that kind of mindset as compared to the traditions we got passed down to, which is like the curse.
Yeah, the curse, and put a tampon in and roll it up. Let anyone see, and God forbid you drop a tampon on the ground when falls out of your purse or something. It's like all the shame around our cycles is really a massive, massive disservice to the power that our cycles are. Again, this is new life. Like, we have these menstrual cycles so that we can create new life. Like, how incredibly powerful is that? So to honor the blood in the Taoist tradition, there's a practice called turning back the blood, which is all about doing these specific Taoist sexology practices to actually halt your menstrual cycle. And it is said that if you can successfully do that, you will stop your aging process. So a totally different way of going about staying youthful and vital into our later years. which is not to say that you would maintain your fertility all the way through, but those Taoist priestesses who are doing that magic, they are meditating and living in monasteries, and they're really doing the practices like 6 or 7 hours a day. I went down that rabbit hole. I was like, I wonder if I can do it. I wonder if I can turn back the blood. So I started doing the specific practices for it every day, and I did them every day for about 2 years straight. Don't think I missed more than like 3 days in that 2-year period. And I never turned back the blood, but what did happen was my menstrual cycle healed to a level it never had before, which I had really horrible, terrible, painful menstrual cycles my whole life. So through herbs and diet, it shifted some, but it wasn't until I did that everything actually cleaned up and cleared out.
Yeah, I always thought that was kind of an interesting practice. Like, I remember when I first heard about it, I was like, oh my God, no, I don't think that's healthy. I think you need to bleed. But now I get it. It's kind of like semen retention. It's the preservation of your life force energy. Now, what can you do perspective shifts are great, right? Yeah, really great perspective shifts, Willow and Leah. But your perspective shift is not stopping me from not liking or being worried. So what are some things you can do? One is, I really love a bladder douche. You can get them on Amazon. I'll link them in the show notes. And it's like a silicone, like they call them bladders. And then it's got a screw on nozzle. And you can wash them out, and you can just douche with water. And it just kind of rinses things out. So if you feel like, oh, you might be a little dischargey, or you just want to make sure you feel kind of fresh, you can just douche with water, or like it with a teaspoon or less of vinegar if you want. And you don't want to do it too often because you don't want to disturb your pH. But every once in a while, maybe before a hot date where it's planning to be sexual and you just want to feel more confident, highly recommend that. And if you're doing anal play, you can get these they're not like the full-size fleet enemas. They're like a quarter of a fleet enema, so that the only thing that you're cleaning out is just that anal cavity. You're not going up into the colon and trying to do a big flush. You're just getting the inside of the anal cavity. That can make you feel really confident if you know that anal play is in your future. And if you check out, it's an old episode with Amy Baldwin. I think it's called Anal with Amy. We really talk about sort of the insecurities that can come with anal play. And I loved it. She used the word traces, because sometimes there may be a little bit of trace of fecal material, which is just sort of normal. It can happen. It doesn't often happen, but there can be traces every once in a while when you're with anal play. Once you get the territory, you stop being wigged out by that. There is something, because like I know when I first started encountering anal play and it was even brought up, I was like, ew, no. That's where poop lives. Like, why would you play there? Like I didn't get it until I got it. And now it's like the disgust sensor has turned off for me. And that, of course, like a massage therapist or a midwife, those things do turn off when you understand the power of what the potential of the experience is waiting for someone to behold. That becomes so much more important and so much more mind-blowing that a little icky tracer here and there, it just doesn't bother you anymore. But it does take like a practice and a faith and enough experiences to go, this shit's pretty holy. This is a holy shit, my friend.
No, yeah, don't be afraid of a little poop on your fingers. No big
Yeah,
deal.
it washes off. And don't ever make jokes about it in the moment. Don't ever make somebody feel bad.
Definitely don't add any more shame to where people are trying to break through.
Have good sexual manners.
Yeah.
And then how do you tell someone that, hey, it would be better if you freshened up a little bit more? How do we have a sensitive conversation about hygiene? And, when things do actually need to be addressed and someone may be lacking awareness.
Yeah. I've known relationships that almost ended because of bacterial vaginosis, and the smell was just too much. And the guy was like, I'm going to die. I'm going to gag. Like, I can't get near her, but I love her. It's so weird. What do I do? I was like, just give
Yeah.
her Vitanica V-Fresh suppositories. Like, those work like a charm. Oh my God, for any kind of bacterial smell. And I would say, if you're in a situation like that where you're like, okay, you need to stop eating 75 ho-hos a day, or you need to freshen things up down there, whatever it is, you just want to be really gentle and start the conversation with, like, all these things that I love about you. I love so much about you. And I really think that I would have a more enjoyable experience in our sexuality if this thing shifted in your body chemistry. And here's what I've learned is a way to shift that body chemistry. Are you willing to try it? Kind of bring curiosity, make a positive sandwich, bring curiosity forward. Don't ever make it like they're wrong or they're bad or they have something wrong with them. Always make it like, hey, I think we can do better here. Let's see if we can.
I want to really use my sense of smell as a way to kind of get even more turned on. And let's look into this together,
Yeah.
And I'm wondering, what is it about my smells that you really like or don't like? And how can we kind of have a curious conversation? And do we need to, is it diet? Do we need to see the doctor? Do we need a homeopathic remedy? I have pH strips that I keep in my bathroom. So if I'm starting to feel like anything's a little off with my vaginal flora, you take a Q-tip, you take one of those pH strips. I take a Q-tip and I just circle it around the opening of my vagina. And then I take that moisture on the Q-tip and I put it on the strip and it'll turn a color. And then I match the color to the color strip on the bottle and it'll tell me, is my pH off a little bit in any direction? And it is so helpful. I can't tell you, like, I recommend those to everyone. I'll put them in the show notes so that to just feel more, it makes me feel more confident. Just kind of know, okay, how is everything down there? Why does something feels a little off? Let me double check. And because you want to feel free. It's just
you want to feel fresh, you want to feel sexy, and you want to feel beautiful. You definitely want to be a steward of your own landscape. You want to take care of your body. And if something is feeling amiss or awry in your partner's body, just approach it with curiosity and positivity and see if you can elicit some change between the two of you.
Now, the last thing I want to address before we close today is I want to make a plea to the men out there to start making more erotic sounds in your pleasure too, please. 100%. Like, let me tell you, when I'm working with a man who's really starting to get that his orgasmic release is more intense, more powerful, and lasts a lot longer when he harnesses his breath and his sound, it is a eureka moment. It is so amazing to be the witness of their pleasure rolling when they're not holding their breath anymore. They're not all scrunched up, contracting their whole body as they wait for the launch. It's amazing to watch them have an orgasm with their shoulders rolled down and the sound of bliss coming out their throat. What a gift you give your partner. What a gift you give yourself. There's a way to have higher, deeper, longer orgasms, and it is connected to your throat. Give it up. Give it to us.
Your throat and your ass. Relax both and everything will change.
Yeah, please make more sounds, everybody. It ups the intensity of your pleasure so dramatically. There's no way around it. If you want more pleasure, your sound is such an important vehicle. So let things get juicy. And if they're not juicy enough, you get that bottle of lube. And some recommendations on lube, I might add, is I love Foria's Arousal oil. It's great. It's got CBD. It's high quality coconut oil. It's the warming essential oils that they put in this it's like cardamom and cinnamon, and it smells so good. It is so delightful. I'll put a link in the show notes. You can always buy it on our website.
Yeah, I'm a big fan right now of the pleasure pods.
I can't
they're
find my
really
pleasure.
fun.
I need one of those because
I'll
I
give
never
you.
got a
I have a
sample. I had to
bunch.
give my sample away.
Yeah, I'll give you a bunch. I have a bunch. But
Okay.
yeah, the shape of them and then the way they melt, like when you're massaging either, the yoni or the lingam or the belly or the face or anything, when you're massaging anything, it's so good for your skin. Like it
Those are
just
called
makes
pleasure pods.
pleasure pods. We'll put a link in the show notes.
Okay. And Uber Lube is also a favorite. We sell that on the website as well, but I have to say I like Foria more than Uber Lube.
Yeah, I agree. I agree
Yeah.
with that. And then good old-fashioned MCT oil, can never go wrong with that.
Never goes wrong with that.
And it's available.
Yeah. All right. Okay, friends. Hope you're having a beautiful day. Here's some more juicy pleasure.
Thanks for tuning in. This episode was hosted by Tantric Sex Master Coach and Positive Psychology Facilitator Leah Piper, as well as by Chinese and Functional Medicine Doctor and Taoist Sexology Teacher Dr. Willow Brown. Don't forget, your comments, likes, subscribes, and suggestions matter. Let's realize this new world together.